Good evening and welcome to the September 21st, 2023 meeting of the City of Highland Park Zoning Board of Appeals. Patrick, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes. Member Trushansky?
Here.
Back.
Here.
Member Yablon?
Yes, here.
Member Zaransky? Member Hendrick?
Here.
Vice Chair Day?
Here.
Chair Collier?
Here.
Before.
Thank you. Also present with us tonight are Council Member Tony Bloomberg, subbing in for Yumi Ross, and Davis, and I'm going to forget your last name, I apologize, who is our student representative. Just in case anyone is out there listening wanting to know, the appellant for tree 2023-00128, 1125 Crofton Avenue North has asked for a continuance, so we will handle that in due course, but in case anyone's listening for that particular case, you don't have to continue. If you want to roll call Member Zaransky.
And Member Zaransky.
Apologize for being late. Here.
No problem, we just got going. Have my colleagues had an opportunity to review the September 7th zoning board minutes?
Yes.
Yes, I have. I would entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to adopt the minutes as presented in the packet with one note. My name has no S on it, so. But otherwise, to adopt the motion.
His spell check caught it.
I'm sensitive to it.
And a second?
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the minutes have been approved. Is there any business from the public other than the items that are on the agenda? Not hearing any. That brings us to old business. We have one piece of old business this evening. That's VAR-2023-00003. The property at 140 Hazel Avenue. The appellant is Joseph Machushka. Patrick, bring us up to date.
Yes. Okay. So, the property is 140 Hazel, which was continued from the previous meeting. So I'm just going to run through kind of what happened previously, just to bring you back up to speed. The applicant is Joseph Machushka, and they were asking for encroachments to the front yard setback, the established building setback, and the subdivision building setback. I have crossed out here, the encroachments have been subtracted by 6 feet, 6.126 feet, for each one of the encroachments, which we'll get into. Again, here's the aerial shot showing the 3 front yards that the property has. A shot of the ravine that the property also has, just some establishing photos of the existing property, and the site plan of what the existing conditions are with the subdivision building lines around the entirety of the property and as a 12-foot side yard setback as well. So this was the first proposal. It was a 3-car garage that was going to encroach into the western property line, and was going to be 23.06 feet away from the property line. And now the new proposal has reduced that to 29.29 feet. That is a reduction of 6.16 feet from all of the encroachments that I have listed. And the proposed garage is now 699 square feet as opposed to the 846 square feet it was previously. And the proposal is also still maintaining the side yard setback, so there is no change there. The comments for this property have not changed. Forestry will still conduct its review after this case in the permitting process, and we received no other comments from the public. So just to refresh, they're requesting they're requesting front yard setback relief, established building setback, and subdivision building line relief, all for those listed minus 6.16 feet. Yeah, and Yeah, that's about it. Let me know if you have any questions.
Vice Chair Bay?
Just for clarity's sake, Patrick, I assume the reason they were able to downsize their request is because they're downsizing from a 3-car garage to a 2-car garage.
Correct.
Just wanted to put that on the record, too.
Member Yavon?
Could you tell us the new dimensions of the potential garage?
I don't have. Ooh, doo, doo. We're looking at about 25 feet 4 inches and about, I don't have the full dimension sheet here. Hold on.
I'm sure when he gets to it, his architect will have those numbers.
Yeah. I'll leave it on that page.
Any other questions for staff? Not seeing any, thank you. Does the applicant wish to? And I'll remind you, this is a continuation of the hearing from 2 weeks ago, so you were already sworn in. If you just please provide your name and address so that the secretary has it.
Sure. My name is Timothy Bennett, 1077 Deerfield Place, Highland Park, Illinois. Architect for the project. The dimensions on this, your question were 25 on that face of the street, projection out from the house, 27'4", perpendicular to the front of the house. And those are the key dimensions onto that. So, sort of recapping, we discussed, the reasons why we couldn't, why the backyard wasn't working for other locations for this. And the owner had talked to the neighbors, and they were not, they were supportive of this as long as we stayed out of the side yard setback. So we're still maintaining the side yard setback, and the geometry was largely being driven by not putting the garage directly on top of the entry and eliminating any type of natural light going into the house. And then, we just tried to bring it in as tight as we can with, the traffic without having, vehicles, right on top of the stoop. And then, unfortunately, because of the geometry of the site, we still have that additional width there for, function of the door. So that brought it in pretty much as tight as we could to the building there to, address your concerns previously about how far we're coming out there on that. Yeah.
Any questions, Mr. Bennett? Not seeing any. Does your client wish to add anything this evening, or are you good? Okay, great, thank you. With that, since he told me he won't be continuing in January, we'll begin with Member Beck.
You'll be picked on incessantly until then.
No, I think it's great. I think they did a nice job, taking our concerns into consideration and revamping their plan. So I'm in favor of it. I will vote yes.
Thank you. Member Zaransky?
I agree with Mr. Beck. I believe that, I appreciate you taking into consideration, the panel's advice, and I think this is more reasonable, and I think 2-car garage is certainly kind of, more palatable for this lot, and I am also in favor of the variation.
Thank you. I'm blanking. Member Hendrick?
Is it not with an S?
Yes.
Slightly offended.
I'll have to tell you my Hendrick story from way back when.
Jimmy. I'm in support. I appreciate you going back. I believe that going from a 3-car to 2-car meets the first standard, and it's definitely a reasonable request now. I don't think there was any doubt that you have a hardship with the ravine and the subdivision's building line and everything else going on with the property, and I believe the other standards are met, so I would vote to approve.
Thank you. Member Trushansky.
Sure. I think the general consensus last time was that the three-car garage was a big ask, and that if you came back today with a plan for a two-car garage, then, then I would be in favor, and so would everyone else. So I'm in favor of this. Thanks for changing it up.
Member Yablon.
Same as my fellow board members. Thank you for listening to us and taking what we said into consideration, and I do believe the standards have now been met, so thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Bay.
I agree as well. I think the standards have been met. I appreciate the change in the ask. I appreciate the renderings that you provided, which makes it look very attractive the way it's going to be built, and I would support it also.
And I agree with my colleagues. Now when I look at it and I compare it to the standards that we are required to meet, it becomes easy to justify that you have met each of those standards. I'm not going to, go through them all, but I agree with my colleagues that I believe the standards for granting the variance have been met. And with that, I will entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to adopt the approval order that's been submitted with the package and approve it.
Member Yeplin, seconds.
We'll take a roll call.
Member Trushansky?
Aye.
Aye.
Member Yvonne?
Aye.
Member Zaransky?
Aye.
Member Hendrick?
Aye.
Vice Chair Bay?
Aye.
Chair Colfer?
Aye. Thank you. Patrick will follow up either tomorrow or early next week.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And thank you again.
That brings us to new business this evening. We have in our, what is a new numbering system, tree-2023-00128.
What does that have to do with?
I don't know.
I wonder what tree could signify.
You know it like that.
My understanding is they have asked for a variance. Patrick, is there a date set for when they would like it?
Yes, I received an email, and Richard Becker, the architect on the project, requested to continue this to the October 5th ZBA meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that case, I will entertain a motion.
Member Hendrick would make a motion to continue the matter until the October 5th meeting.
Second, please.
Member Trushansky, seconds.
I guess we'll do a roll call.
Member Trushansky?
Aye.
Member Beck?
Aye.
Member Yvonne?
Aye.
Member Zaransky?
Aye.
Member Hendrick?
Aye.
Vice Chair Bay?
Aye.
And Chair Colfer?
Aye. Thank you. That has passed unanimously. That brings us to, there will just, for if there's anyone out there listening, there will not be a new notice of this application. The notice is as set, and it has been continued until the October 6th meeting. So this is your official notice. Is there a staff report?
There's not.
That brings us to miscellaneous. It has been brought to my attention in discussions with several folks that other bodies, City Council, the Plan and Design Commission being two of them, have set time limits for speaking. For the PDC, for City Council, I believe it's anybody of 3 minutes. And then for the PDC, it's for any members of the public, but not for the applicant. So the question is, and what I'd just like to get a sense of, is there a desire on this body to go to something either identical or similar to what the PDC does, or are we happy with the way it has been handled since I've been on the commission for 7 years?
I have a logistical question. Who's going to be tasked with the timekeeping? Is that
Staff.
Patrick's job, or?
That would be staff's job. They put a little timer up on the screen.
My opinion is that no change is needed. I think, at least in our setting, I haven't been on 7 years, I've only been on 3 or 4, but I think, in my experience, People are pretty respectful of our time, and I don't know that I want to stifle anyone from speaking. I feel like most of the time, it's the applicant's attorney or something that will, I mean, I'm just being honest, that kind of goes on, and so if we were to do any sort of time limit, I would want it applied to everybody. But that's just my thought.
I would be more in favor of a curfew. I think it doesn't come into play all that often, but there have been times when we've been here till 11:30, 12 o'clock, and then finally someone will say, well, maybe we should continue this, but usually not because of the late hour, just because it's appropriate to continue. I'm wondering if something like that would be doable.
That might be more palatable.
That might,
So the answer is that is doable. Many of the commissions and even the city council has a curfew. We don't always exercise it, as for instance, last Monday. But you can put it in place, and it makes it easier when you have that kind of situation to look at it. Your colleagues on the Plan and Design Commission, the chair exercised that a couple of meetings ago when things got a little bit protracted, gave warning in advance, about a half an hour in advance, that the meeting would end at 10:30. And that anything that needed to be continued would be continued at that time. So you have, if you pass that and you set it up, it's available, and you can recognize it if you want to and use it if you want to, and not if you don't.
okay.
Back to the issue at hand, though, I'm very much against limiting the speech. I think one of the great things I've witnessed about this board is how everyone feels very heard, whether we agree with them or not, and, how we rule is up to us, but I think everyone leaves feeling like they had their opportunity to speak and have their opinions considered. I would not want to take that away.
Okay. Member Trushansky. Zaransky, sorry. I knew I was going to do it.
I agree. I think, in over the last few years, there's maybe been like one or two people that have abused it, and it really hasn't been a, gross abuse. So I'd be in favor of just keeping it as is. I think the curfew, I guess I'd be in support of that. It's an option if we need it. I felt like when we were in Zoom, I felt like those tended to go a little bit longer and later for whatever reason, but
I think you're right.
this has been a light year for whatever reason also, so it's kind of changed it, but,
In the absence of a formal time limit, is there anything, and I can think of, like Brad said, I can think of maybe one or two occasions when there's been a member of the public that's just been very long-winded and very repetitive. Is there anything that would prevent us from just being able to say at that point, you've had your say, you've already, we get your points, we're going to move on?
Why is the chair can suggest that we're not reminding them to keep it limited, and that if there are members of the public who are all speaking to the same point, it doesn't necessarily all need to be repeated by every single one. That's a approach I've seen taken at city council when there have been.
Well, city council has a 3-minute time limit.
Right, but I believe I've also heard them say, if you're all here for.
If you all agree, just feel free to come up and say, I agree with what's been said. Yes, of course, we encourage.
your agenda's also like this.
Yeah, they've got 1,000-page
Yes.
books.
If you have definitive time limits, that's a tool you can use more readily. It's easier to cut somebody off. According to our corporation council, 3 minutes is sort of the minimum, below which there have been some rulings that suggest it might be too constraining. You don't have to have a time limit, and you can do what you've suggested. The rationale that you have to employ is a little bit unclear to me and not at the tip of my tongue. You might want to consult with Corporation Counsel to find out how to handle that, but where your experience has been that people are respectful, being heard, there is a means to cut off an individual who has just sort of lost their way, and
Right.
asking them to wrap it up.
And my thought has always been concerned that because our decisions are appealable to the court versus to city council, that what is being appealed is the record.
I
And that
hear
if
you.
we cut people off, that record may or may not be
Complete.
complete.
Yeah.
If nothing else, because you have final authority.
Right.
Which the other commissions don't really have. All the other commissions are, for the most part, advisory. Your interest in allowing greater public comment obviously has a different significance for you as a board. And I understand that. I don't have an opinion as to what you ought to do, and if I...
Neither do I. I'm just, this has been brought to me for a number of years now. so
I'm
I
just
think
telling you what the available
Yes.
options are.
Thank you. Member Yablon.
And Chair, I'm going to give you a compliment. I can't remember when this happened, but I recall at some point someone kind of rambling and you gently stopping them and saying, I understand from what you're saying that you don't like A, B, and C. Is there anything additional that we need to hear from you? And then they usually go, no.
Okay, thank you. Member
I have an
Beck.
opinion. I don't
Yes?
agree with, some of the other members that we shouldn't have time limits. Especially because he said you could let someone go longer, and all of a sudden that goes to an appeals court. They say, well, why'd you let this person go longer and not them? So I think you get into a problem with, uniformly applying that.
Just to clarify, if you have time limits in place, you do have to adhere to them.
Oh, you do have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it
When
has
you
something
don't,
that you did have.
when you don't have time limits and somebody starts extending their stay at the podium, what the chair has evidently done in the past is certainly okay. There are some parameters that you should be aware of, and I would suggest some conversation with Corporation Counsel just to know what they are. So if you don't want to set time limits, that's perfectly okay, but when you get somebody who becomes overly enthusiastic, you know what the appropriate tools are to address them.
That would be in favor of a reasonable,
Okay.
which is what we're all about here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Member Krasinski, now I got it right.
Right. I can't recall a situation where somebody from the public or even the applicant or an attorney spoke for an amount of time that I thought was,
You could think of one.
yeah, fine, one.
And he's a former chair.
I can think of two or three, actually, but I've been on several years longer. So
Yeah. So I don't necessarily think that a time limit is necessary. As far as a curfew goes, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Very reasonable.
Just because it was suggested after I spoke, I agree curfew is reasonable. I think that's a good idea.
So you have a mandatory curfew, or you have the option to
Discretionary.
If we have a curfew, do we have to?
No, you do not. And that becomes the thing, because you're bumping somebody who may have been here all, waiting for their turn as the last item on the agenda. So it sort of becomes that maybe if we have that full agenda, which we really haven't lately, but if we know there are 4 applications, maybe you go to number 4 and go, you may want to ask for, we can continue this so you're not sitting here all night.
Because
And it puts you as number 1 in 2 weeks.
Well, there's also been times when you've kind of tweaked the order.
Right,
the school district shows up, or,
right.
Yeah, we haven't tweaked the order there. I mean, generally, obviously, the order is always old business goes first.
The only time I remember tweaking the order is when the application that was going first asked to go last, because somebody couldn't show up.
I think there might be times where we may want to do that if it's kind of apparent that one is going to take, like old business is
Right.
going to take a long time, and there's a
Having a
relative...
curfew wouldn't interfere with your ability to do that.
Right.
That's always the discretion of the chair with notice to everybody at the meeting.
Member Yablon?
And also, would it be at, say, staff's discretion to say you're the 4th case up and I would like you to know that there's...
I don't know how they're ordered, Patrick. How are they ordered?
Usually
Are they-
the order is just when they come in. So
Okay, when
when you
they,
get in, you get the number,
But
smaller number goes first.
if someone's already paying for like their attorney, their architect
Right.
to be sitting here and then to say, hey, by the way, we probably won't get to you.
yeah, that to me is a little,
Mm-mm.
yeah.
But you have the option of saying, we have a heavy agenda, I want to be done by 10:30 tonight, so let's be focused as we proceed with the applications. That can stir people to limit their comments and get themselves heard within that time.
And besides our time, it's also respectful.
But you can get to 10:30 and find you're having such a great time that you want to go to midnight.
We've done that.
And we've had times when we're not having had fun and we're going till midnight. Okay, well, I think we've got a sense, and this is what I was hoping for, and that is we all prefer to have the open dialogue, the open discussion, and we're amenable to a time limit or a curfew in the evening. And I keep hearing 10:30, so I don't know if, I don't know what the next step is, Patrick.
I would go to Corporation
Yeah.
Council. We would draft something. I don't think we could get something drafted for October 5th, but we could get something drafted.
We could aim for the new fiscal year, calendar year, have something in place for January 1 so that there's open notice. We don't have that many meetings between now and then.
Okay.
So, we can,
So is 10:30 the time that I should suggest, or?
Good with that, as long as it remains discretionary, I'm good with that.
that's fine with me.
Sounds good to me.
And I like this because it's one of my term as Chair Sunset.
Whoever gets to succeed, you will have the
We'll have the
discretion,
pleasure.
the additional
Yes.
power. That's what I'm going for.
Anybody else have anything they'd like to bring? In that case, Davis, do you have anything this evening? You've been quiet. We haven't seen you in a while. School well?
Yeah, it's all good.
Good.
Yep.
In that case, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, we are hereby adjourned at 7:59.
The slowest motion to adjourn I've ever heard.
I know.
I've always wanted to vote against that.